Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry,
Okay.
my bad. I have another routing for iHand music with my speakers back then, and it was on. So you were not on my headphones. You were on the.
I see.
How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. How are you?
Well, I finally tested negative for the first time this morning, just before we recorded.
That's wow. How long is that? 10 days.
Yeah, it takes 10 days. What can I tell you? But yeah, no, I'm lucky. I felt fine mostly throughout. So, I mean, this is an episode of bugs because you also had your own, right, or something.
Yeah, I have never felt so just empty my whole
God,
life.
really?
Yeah, man, I've never felt so tired, and it was like 10 days of just feeling like, and not being able to talk.
Oh, what?
Yeah, like if I talked for more than 10 or 15 minutes, my voice would just sort of evaporate.
How did you? Were you already sick when you were in Medellin, or not?
The last day I was feeling not great, and I just thought, I've just pushed it too hard. And then by the time we got to the airport, I was like, this is not good. And then, yeah, it floored me.
God. Oh dear. Well, brace. You know, because bugs, chaos, inflation. I don't know what a world. What a world we're at, man. I just realized that obviously I forgot to call in the little sounds that I need to use usually for the... I don't know if I can... they're not going to come up, right? This one? See, it's not the right one. It's like
I
applause.
like that one. That's a nice way to start
That works, right? That works, but it's absolutely not the one I wanted. Give me a second.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
That's much better. That's much better.
You're going to need luck, I tell you, you're right.
Well, yeah. So pardon me if my voice is still a little bit taken. I think that's the only, my only symptom. I think it was a runny nose and a little bit of a hoarse voice. That's about it. I got very lucky with COVID because I have a few friends of mine who got it this week and they're not doing great. Yeah. Some of them are like in bed and whatever. So it's really the lottery in terms of what you get, right? Like,
what you get, what variant you get, how you're feeling beforehand. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason at the moment, but
yeah, it is.
I feel like
I have a few
masks.
friends who came from Japan during the past 5-6 weeks that I've met here in London. One came and after 2 days he got COVID.
No.
And for them, it's like science fiction because, you know, the country, because it's still shut and they're managing pretty well. I mean, I think they have the lowest death rate or something or whatever. I forgot something like that. So for them, it's like a bit science fiction that basically Europe or the US is just not caring about it anymore. And they're like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, it's just life. But I don't know what, man, I don't think we will ever know what was the best thing to be done.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I don't think anybody's got it right. We're just getting on with it now.
Yeah, exactly. But we're paying the price. So guys, hi. Where's the intro music for Again Can I? Here it is. Sorry. I'm like, you can see COVID mushed my mind, so I'm late about everything. There you go. So hi, everybody. We were supposed to record last week. Last Wednesday, and on Monday, so 10 days ago, I got tested positive, and as a precaution, I told Alex, you know what, let's not do Wednesday because I might be really sick, and let's not do this. I could have in the end, but it was better that I took a rest anyway. So we're back. We're back after a very successful episode with Mark. That was quite.
That was such a great conversation. And that book, if you haven't read it yet, go grab it. It's out. Absolutely. It comes out in the US, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yes, we're recording this the 23rd of June 2022, which means 2 weeks, and also which means it should be released later today. So you're gonna get it. Yeah, and a lot of people. I mean, you know what? We reached that point again when I'm unable to track all the comments and mentions and people sending us stuff. Because we also had probably, at least when I'm looking at the numbers, a lot of new listeners. Because it's a very successful episode. So thank you, Mark, also for promoting it. And I'm reaching that point where it's impossible to mention everyone and simply to answer everyone. So if you send us emails or messages and we don't reply, don't take it personally. It's just that we have too many. And now it's a nice problem to have, perhaps, but I don't want to hire a PA to do that. So really, forgive us if we don't. But overwhelming, I'm going to be able to say that word, overwhelmingly positive. People really love the episode and our interaction. So see, we can talk about cities and other stuff and people still like it.
That's good. That's good. We can deviate from time to time when you have someone like Mark, who is such an enthusiast of travel, not just air travel, but travel in general and exploration and new experiences. It's hard not to be caught up in that joy.
And obviously, a lot of comments about me never having been to Canada. I got slack I got.
I forgot about that.
Mathieu was also thinking, I mean, a lot of our very long-time listeners, but others were all like mocking me. I'll be going at some point. I know I will be. I need to think otherwise. I literally did offend an entire country right now. Thank you, Mark, for pointing that out.
I think people were probably more surprised than anything with someone who's as traveled as you are, not having the gravitational pull of Canada has somehow eluded you thus far. You have eluded it.
Yeah, I'll go. No, plus, I mean, honestly, it looks, Montreal and Vancouver, even Toronto, these are all cities I really want to go. Calgary, so it's not... it's again, I think it's one of these, I'm sure you have that on your list of countries you've never been. There are countries that you say, yeah, I'll go anyway at some point.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to say that about Canada, guys. My friends from Canada, I'm not here telling you that it's not a challenge to go to you, but it's like, I know I will go. And so when I had the opportunity to go to, let's say, when I went for the first time to Pakistan a few years ago, it was like, yeah, of course, because I'm like, maybe I will never have the opportunity again, And that's the thing where, obviously, then you delay the more traditional. Did I just call Canada traditional? Maybe you guys are not traditional. I'm really sorry.
I think it's exactly the same as exploring your own backyard, isn't it? You're like, I can do that anytime, and then you just never get around to doing it until someone comes to visit you. It feels like the same.
Or when you suddenly have a global pandemic, because I discovered London and my backyard around the south of England during COVID, actually. That was the very big plus. I can actually now say that I live in the UK. Before I would say I live in London. Mm-hmm. And even that, some parts of London were like, they're in London on the map, but I've never been to them. Right. So now, I mean, no, I'm not happy that we had a global pandemic. So Japan is still closed because I got a lot of messages about, Paul, Japan opened up, you can go. I'm like, not exactly. Not exactly. So you need to register to an accredited travel agent or agency, obviously, fill a lot of paperwork, go to a group tour, which will be supervised. The chaperone of the tour will test you every morning, take your temperature every lunchtime. You have assigned seats when you get into a restaurant, and you're not allowed to switch seats with anyone else. It's a bit complicated, and only 300 people actually signed up for the scheme so far. So that's less than a 777 going to Japan. Before that, before COVID, there was 90,000 people a day. So it's not really opened.
No, it's not.
I mean, if you go to a group tour, let us know. I'd be happy to learn about the group tour. I'm not Are you a group tour person?
I am not a group tour person. I'm just not, and I think they're useful and wonderful things, but not my jam at all. And I think it doesn't feel like a great way to experience Japan. Unfortunately, I'm especially if you've been there before. I think it would be an absolutely infuriating experience.
I fully agree. I fully agree with you. Japan, fall, whenever, I don't know. Honestly, right now, I kind of gave up. I'm not going to travel during the summer, probably because of the chaos. We'll get to that. I think you've experienced a little bit of it very recently. Easy rolling his eyes super high.
Dude.
So... yeah, it was due that I got COVID. Thank God you haven't had it yet. Again, I'm lottery. Some of our friends are having it really bad. Some didn't. I went. You know what? I went to a wine fair, a golf tournament, and a download festival. In a single week. So obviously it was due to happen.
You were really.
And 100,000 people shouting and singing and being so happy to being there at a music festival was probably due. I mean, that was a calculation. I was like, I'm pretty much sure. I was telling a friend who works at Lake, I was like, she was telling me, oh, do you want to come to the opening of the gallery? I'm like, you know what? It's next week. I'll probably have COVID because I'm going to a huge music festival. And of course, like clockwork on Monday morning, I tested positive. The reason I mentioned Download Festival, there's two. First, because I'm there on, I think it was the second day, or was it Sunday? I forgot. And I'm in this, they call it RIP, because it's a VIP, but obviously it's a rocking piece now. Ha ha ha. And this dude comes to me, he has a Stetson and all in black. I mean, black obviously is the main color in that festival. It's a heavy metal festival. And comes and says, something like, you don't know me, but I know you. I want to thank you so much for layovers. And I'm like, what? And I had a brain freeze. So he's called Mark, because obviously I asked his name. Mark, I had a brain freeze for probably like a good 90 seconds. And I don't even remember what I was telling you, because it never happens to me that somebody recognized me out of the blue. I don't even know how you recognized me, Mark. Was it simply because... I think I put a few, of course, Instagram stories, so maybe realized it was there, but it was like, how? But that was really cool. It was super nice. He said, I think, at least 4 times that the show was brilliant. So thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate that. That's
what a wonderful moment that must have been.
You had that in Mexico, no?
I've had, a few times where people have come like, pretty much the same thing. You don't know me, but I know you. And I really appreciate people taking the time to do that, because sometimes you forget that there are other people listening and it's not just you and me having a conversation. Yes. So I love hearing about it, and where you're going and, what kind of airplane you're going on and all that.
So that's my issue, because so we talked about music, because probably I had a brain freeze. So I didn't know what to say. So it was like a bit, probably even in my face, I must have been maybe not the most, not the warmest Paul you've met, because it was like, what's going on here? And so first, I mean, Mark, you're a man of my heart, because you went to see Iron Maiden like me and Megadeth like me. Miles Kennedy, I know you went to I know I'm losing people that talk about aviation. I went to Biffy Clyro, and that was probably one of the best concerts, the best live gigs I've ever seen. Man, every single drum beat was reflected and translated with lights on massive screens. Wow. You and me that, we love playing with the screens behind us when we do our stage presence. That was one of the most baffling things. I think I sat listening to this band for the first 20 minutes. My friend Christophe, who went with me, was like, Paul, are you okay? I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. It's like the best, I don't know what they did. Like literally every single chord of their guitar was linked to some type of light and it was just, man, I wish we could do that on stage.
Yeah. I was thinking, wow. Holy sweet, actually.
Holy cow. By the way, another, I didn't meet him, but he sent me a message on Instagram. Ian, hi, my name is Ian. On Insta, he said, I met Simon, so the singer of Biffy Clyro. I met Siren at the airport as he was in line behind me at security. Insanely nice guy. So yeah, there you go. So,
that's always refreshing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm more like, don't meet your heroes. I mean, I don't like heroes, but you know what I mean? Like people that really love their music. I'm like, I'd rather not know if the guy is an asshole.
Yeah, no, totally.
Right?
Totally.
So, and the other reason I want to talk about, of course, Download is, and hence you said, when you meet people that listen to the show, you talk about airlines. I realized that we didn't talk about airports or airlines or anything about, like, anything that, is linked to us. Mark, I'm so sorry. And we had an airport right there. So Download Festival happens on Donington Park. They have obviously a racing circuit. I think some Formula One was happening back in the day. And there's the airport, East Midlands Airport. Have you ever been to that airport?
I have not. A friend of mine ran it for a while.
What?
Yeah, a friend of the family's. Yeah, but I've never, I don't think, ever flown in or out of there.
Yeah, so they fly. I can tell you, because so we were doing glamping, so we, the nice stands, really, really, really well done. I mean, we paid the price for it, but really, really well done. The thing is, you have, that was not written anywhere. You have an alarm clock called Ryanair, because Ryanair leaves at 5:30 in the morning, and at 5:30, because we're literally next to the runway, when they are probably 20 seconds off the runways, you hear the roaring 738 of Ryanair. That's your alarm clock. The first
You and I probably would appreciate that. Maybe not everybody.
I liked it actually.
Yeah.
What? And I've spotted Jet 2, TUI. There was a 747 DHL. So probably because I've seen there's like a massive Amazon fulfillment center. So probably
at night, if I wake up in the middle of the night and get back to sleep, I open Flight Radar and you see a lot of the kind of old Metroliners and cargo conversions. They're all going from somewhere in Europe to East Midlands.
Yeah,
it seems like a really big cargo.
It's actually it's. I was thinking. So Birmingham is not really far. That's another airport. So East Midlands is what? Is it for? What's the other city that could be? Because it's not like a big city next to. Is it maybe Leicester?
I'm not sure what other airport it serves. Because you're right. Birmingham's got a big airport.
Yeah,
it's got,
Emirates flies there.
Yeah, Emirates flies. I mean, it's the second biggest city in the country, so it's not surprising. But I think East Midlands, maybe Leeds as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the point. I saw one airline that I had never heard about, so I want to quiz you if you know them. You probably know them because you know everything, and I don't. Blue Island.
Yeah.
There you go. See, he knows about them.
When you go to places like in the Eastern Europe or sometimes in Spain too, you see them as well. They're a charter airline.
I didn't know. It was an ATR 72-500, I think, that was leaving. That I saw it only once, right? But yeah, so interesting airline. I had never heard about. So usually we see these kind of airlines we never heard about. We're in some random airport in Asia or in the Middle East, or probably you when you're going to tell us, because the episode of the airport of the day is Medellin, of course, that you've been. So maybe you've spotted some stuff that is very, very foreign to us. Didn't expect to see one in the middle of the Midlands. Blue Islands. So there you go. I think that one was going to Jersey. There was a really small hop, I guess.
Yeah, I think the only reason why I know about these things is because I've got my little ADS-B thing, and when every now and then I pull them up, I'm like, what the hell is that? Who are you and where are you going and why?
I was about that. I'm jumping back and forth with the dates, but I was doing some gardening when we had the Jubilee. We had the Queen celebration for 70 years of reign, and I was doing some gardening, completely oblivious that day was supposed to be the big trooping of the colors. So all the planes were flying over London, and suddenly I hear this huge noise. I'm like, the hell is going on? And there was like 3 Hercules, like literally above my house. Like honestly, I've never seen planes that close in my part of London, and I see quite a bit here. And it was like that. And of course, I didn't have my phone because I was doing some gardening. So I ran to try to take my phone to take a picture, and it was too late already. And then followed by Airbus 400M, so the military version of that was pretty insane.
Yeah, that's so cool. I watched it on TV.
And that's the thing. I didn't realize it was that day. For some reason, I thought it was the following day, so I missed it everything. It was nice, right?
That's so cool. Yeah, it was a very impressive flyover. Kept going on and on and on, and you could see them like all lined up, like in Essex, like northeast of London, just all running in these circuits in the order in which they were to come over, and then all of a sudden they broke away. It was very cool, very cool. It's hard to beat.
That's amazing, man. I mean, but that noise, and again, and I'm not in military planes, as you guys know, but I mean that noise. I think these. Because of course I track them on Plane Finder. I'm a Plane Finder user myself, but I think these are a newer version of Hercules, not the one for the 50s. It was one that was done probably, I think, 20 years ago, and especially for the RAF, although the Americans have them as well. So, but super, they have the same look, right? The traditional look that you see, even including in the movies. I mean, this plane is everywhere.
It's such an iconic airplane.
But the noise. Compared to that, the A400M looked like a 350. It was doing no noise at all, obviously.
Really shows, though, what they've done in terms of turboprop technology and make them so much quieter.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a deafening noise.
I forgot about when I was, because obviously there are always going to be morons in this life. You talked about influencers yourself when you were in Dubai. So I doubt, surely there were some influencers at that festival, but obviously even though there were like signs everywhere, 2 dudes, I say dudes, could be dudettes decided to fly drones, and they had to close East Midland airports.
Are you serious?
Airports, sorry. Like there was literally, and I didn't think that shows how my brain wasn't functioning well. Maybe because Mark of your brain freeze. We were seeing all these no drone sign, and for some reason I said, yeah, because you don't want the privacy of people like us in the tent. No, it was because we have an airport next door, and you are in the vicinity of an airport. You're not supposed to take a drone off.
People enjoying the peripheral activities of a festival plus a drone is not going to end well, and an airport.
And they closed it. So there you go. I didn't follow up the story, so I don't even know if they tracked down the people. But anyway, since we are on feedback, because we had the feedback from Mark, so again, thank you very much for coming up to me. And yes, I might be going. I think he asked me the question during my brain freeze. I'll be going next year. It was really the best festival I ever attended in my life.
Wow.
As it was the most friendly. Of course, the music, everything was great, but I've never seen a festival when it was so friendly. People were their kids and there were families, and it was like literally everybody was just so friendly. There was no hiccups, no tension, no nothing. When you can see in some other festivals, Glastonbury, and so yeah, amazing. Anyway, feedback. We had an amazing review on iTunes. That's from Fouad Roger. 5 stars from Canada. So you go.
He's going to take it all back now.
And he says, I tried other shows, I really did, but it wasn't the same. You guys take me to a happy place. When Paul was saying that flying on Virgin felt like going on a holiday, now every time I hear Alex, it reminds me of that beautiful September morning in Mexico City at the Four Seasons Hotel and holidays. That's him you met.
Yes, of course.
And the Athens Attaché that you released a few weeks ago, it reminds me of my childhood when we spent our summers in the Peloponnese and go to Athens to meet friends. Memories, you both make them happen. Love you guys, Fouad Roger. That's really nice. Yeah, right?
That's such a kind message.
Yeah,
and I remember
really.
that.
Thank you so much.
I can picture that moment in Mexico City like it was yesterday. Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's a lovely thing to hear.
Thank you so much. And I had no idea, man, that you spent summers in the Peloponnese, because I did that as well. So we probably maybe even met.
Yeah.
But thank God I was not doing layovers back then, so you didn't go, I know you, but you don't know me. So, hey, thank you. And guys, thank you very much for all the feedback. I know that some of you have sent as well, like messages on Instagram and replies on Twitter, and I'm rarely on Facebook, but I know on Facebook there's stuff as well. So thank you so much. I'll try to get to all of you, and if I don't, please insist. And I always thank you as well for leaving reviews. That's very much appreciated. We don't ask for them, but that's when we read stuff like that, it makes us really happy, honestly. So thank you. We are number one in Ukraine. So thank you as well. I don't know if we provide people in Ukraine during the war you're experiencing any type of solace, or because you cannot fly, but thank you. I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much for putting us number one in Ukraine in our iTunes Apple Podcast rankings. That's pretty impressive. What else? You couldn't come to the book launch of Mark, which happened on June 1st in Marylebone here in London at Downs, the bookstore. That was great. And we did a little, so Mark and his partner, Mark, organized a little party afterwards. And we were a group of us. And man, you should have been there. I cannot say anything that's been said there because there was a lot of people, of course, working in the field. The stories, I was staying mum, but the stories we have to do a reunion with Mark and you one of these days to hear the stories in flight and in airports and some of the stuff they think. It's amazing.
I can imagine. Oh yeah, I was so disappointed to miss it.
Yeah, and I'm disappointed because I could have met Megan, and obviously you didn't show up. I was like, yeah, finally I'm gonna meet Megan, and no.
Yeah, she was disappointed too.
We'll make it happen. So let's start with chaos. I mean, brace. It's pretty insane. It's all over Europe, in the US. I guess it's not in Japan because the country is closed. But I mean, a lot of countries are reporting, a lot of airports are reporting like issues. Like it's just crazy. So maybe before we go into the reasons and the whys, I know you've just been to Spain, I think, for a small holiday. I think it was Valencia and Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us, first, the trip? Was it nice? And what type of chaos, if any, did you experience?
I mean, so we flew from Heathrow to Madrid. I went in fully expecting T5 to be chaotic. And I even left earlier than I do ordinarily, which
is what, 6 hours?
Yeah, but of course traffic was like, I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but traffic in the London area and on the motorways has gotten so bad lately. And it turns out, because I was like, why does this keep happening? There aren't enough employees on road clearance teams, on police to take care of them so it's there's a theme emerging here. I think the flight was at like 1 in the afternoon or something, maybe a bit later. But T5 was okay. There was no particular craziness, and security was fine. The lounge was the first lounge in BA was busy. Okay. And actually, the way that we came in, because I was like, oh, pod parking, that's the best parking at the moment because it's cheaper, but it's close to the airport, and the pods are kind of fun. And I was like, I'm very sure Megan hasn't done this before. So parked in the pod parking place, which is, you could throw a stone and hit T5 from it. Okay. And get there, and it says, due to essential maintenance, the pods are no longer functioning.
No longer? Oh, damn.
Well, I think it's temporary, or actually, you know what I should say? It's indefinite, because they didn't say between the date of X and Y. It was just like for. So we waited forever for a bus to get there. The bus drops you at the very bottom floor of T5, which is clear across the terminal from the first wing.
Yep.
So we take the elevator up to departures, which is on the 5th floor, and I'm looking at the first wing, and there's people milling around. I mean, like, that's a big terminal by any measurement. Yeah. And I'm looking kind of with my terrible eyesight. It looks pretty busy down there. And I look in front of me, and the premium security lane is empty. There's literally nobody there. And I was like, we're just going to go through there. And there was like nobody at the E-gate to let you into security. Nobody at security, not a single person, straight through. And that dumps you out on the very north side of the terminal, so by the Galleries North Lounge. It was very, very busy in T5.
Still busy, okay. Yeah.
And you know what it is, and it took me way too long to figure this out. A lot of American schools are finished already for the summer. They do tend to finish much, much earlier than us. So London is full of Americans, and therefore the airport is full of Americans. They're going off to either home or they're going off somewhere else in Europe. So we just walked the length of the terminal, kind of dodging in and out of people to the first lounge, because the Galleries North Lounge, because I was feeling particularly lazy, I was like, why don't we just go in there? Heaving, absolutely heaving. And the first lounge was busy as well. We managed to get the seats. What's interesting about the BA First Lounge now is they have resumed a buffet style service of food, as well as the scan order on the menu deal as well.
So may I ask you, because guys, I'll do my trip to Pakistan as a single episode, probably the next one or a follow-up one, which is what we don't do. But I flew with Qatar Airways before they retransferred back to T4. It was at T5. And I had that, but it was not... So at the first lounge, it was not the full length of the buffet as it used to. It was a little bit at the beginning, and then they had put seats everywhere else. Yep. Is that still the case?
It's still the case. And the food, actually, it was pretty good. It was hot and cold kind of salad items, and then there was a build-your-own burger station.
I was about to ask that. I've seen that online. Oh, dear. Wow, it's still there.
Which I didn't partake in, but I thought that was a nice idea. And then a reasonably robust meal ordering system, which they've had since the beginning of COVID, where you scan the QR code and that all works well. And then more and more self-service. I think everything except. Actually, no. You can pour your own alcohol in some of it anyway.
I was about to say, when I went and it was before you, you could already. I mean, you still had the signs that said no bar service. Yet everybody was going to the bar, and some people were pouring themselves. So it's. It seems that it's like. In actuality, we're back to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Although you still have the option, like you said, to do the QR code to order.
Yeah, and then you can order sort of mixed drinks and hot food, more hot food. And, it felt like the food has been improved in the lounges lately. So that was. Are
you comparing to what you experienced during the pandemic?
Yeah, which maybe isn't fair. To be completely honest, I cannot remember what it was like before the pandemic. If it was, I don't think it was anything to write home about, but it felt. I think when you have, not to put the food hat on, but when you have cold food items like that, it's easier to not be crap.
Yeah. Well, clearly, yeah.
So. That bit was good, but then I was glancing at the departure board, going, "We don't have a gate. We 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 don't have a gate." And then I Googled it. I Googled the flight number because it wasn't on the app. It wasn't on the departure boards. And it's like, oh, it's A22. It's like, well, why does Google know this before?
Actually, I use either Flighty or Tripit does it as well. They all there was another one, App in the Air, and I forgot there's a Word Wallet. They all trigger very much faster than the airport itself. I think I always wonder, especially at Heathrow, is it because they want you to spend more time at buying stuff at the shops? Like not clogging and being just. I don't know. I'm saying maybe it's totally. I have no idea, but it's true that you have to wait until they give you the gate on the boards like 30 minutes before boarding. Whereas some of these apps, I get a notification. Oh, it's be whatever, and it's earlier.
It may be traffic management. I think because especially in the A gates, which are predominantly short haul, the turnover is quick. When we actually got to the gate, there was the old BEA retrojet sat there, and I was that's cool. Yeah. Look, non-interested wife in this, but I was like, that's not our plane though, because I've checked on flight radar, and that plane disappears, and then ours comes in, and it was. That's when I knew, okay, we're going to be a little bit delayed here. Yeah. But the one thing that I was reminded of on this trip is how I really appreciate BA going back to group boarding. Not group 1, 2, 3 like they do in a lot of the outports, which I'll come to in a minute, but it's like, okay, group 1, now group 2, or groups 1 and 2, now groups 1, 2, and 3. Because otherwise, everybody at BA has status. Megan took one long haul flight and got bronze.
Especially at Heathrow.
Yeah.
At Heathrow, everybody has status.
Everybody does. And so it doesn't make for a smooth boarding process.
No, there's like three quarters of the flight, like basically 75% of the flight enters with status, and then you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's
it makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and I think it's inefficient. But also, I mean, if you're trying to reward your most valuable customers with a feeling of exclusivity and status, it's not a good way of doing it. So, but it's fine, and we boarded. We were in economy, and you've done the Madrid flight a billion times, just like I have. Yeah. It's relatively straightforward. It was the first time I'd been to Madrid in about 2.5 years, but we went last week when it was unbelievably hot across Western Europe, here in the UK and in Spain, and I'd forgot.
Yeah, we had a heat wave.
Yeah, I mean, it was like. I think on the day that I landed in Madrid, it was like 42 in Madrid and 38 in London.
Yeah.
And you come across that plane to PLAIN to land in Madrid. And the things that I'd forgotten about Madrid is that it's massive. It's surrounded by nothing. There's not a lot around it. And you're on a plane. And so PLAIN. And so that heat that's coming off those things, you get some bumps. You get a pretty fun ride coming into Madrid on a hot day, just like you do in Las Vegas. But we had one of those things where, because it was hot, we sat in ground effect over the runway, and then all of a sudden the plane's like, I am gravity. Boom. Really hard, and your feelings popped out a little bit. But and I've also forgotten how big that airport is, and the random airplanes and airlines you get, and then how much I hate that airport.
Did you land at a 4S? So the
yes,
4S. Oh my god,
place.
The thing is like 20 miles apart from the main airport. Oh my god.
It's 20 miles apart from the main airport. The signage is confusing. It was really quiet. We landed, I think, 3 or 4 o'clock local. Actually, we're late because we had a creeping delay on the ground because of you want it here? Okay. I will tell you why we were delayed. Because the captain came on very apologetic and said, we are late because there wasn't a gate crew to board you.
Oh, there you go.
There aren't enough gate crews to handle the number of flights that we have going. He was very candid. And I have to give BA credit because, and this is a recurring theme, the captain or the flight deck crew, I can't remember who did the talking, polite, honest, sincere. The cabin crew were fantastic, kind, efficient, genuinely smiling. It was a water and a snack thing, and then you go onto the Wi-Fi and buy a drink, and they bring it to you 30 seconds later. Smiles and face. It just was a reminder that not all is broken at BA. There's something still alive in the husk of the airline that was BA, at least operationally. But yeah, Madrid, I'd forgotten. And there was a lot of Latin American airlines lined up, and Megan was like, oh, I hadn't seen that one before. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen that. And like LATAM and LAN and all those guys like lined up because, of course, they get a lot of traffic in Avianca as well. And then, of course, you take the train from 4S to main airport, and the rest of it was pretty easy. We ended up taking an Uber in because just of where we were staying, because the metro goes right into Madrid airport, and it's a fantastic service. It's cheap. It's cool. I think our Uber driver has been a little bit disappointed with this year's Formula One season because he was trying to qualify himself, which was fun. But yeah, anyway, Madrid was great. We actually took the train because we were staying right near Atocha station, so near the Prado and all of that. From Valencia, it's hour and 35 minutes because they've just introduced in 2018 this new high-speed service in Spain.
High speed, yeah.
Fantastic. All the seats feel like airline business class seats. It was 2 hours late. I don't blame them. There was a transformer exploded in the heat somewhere in the approach to Valencia. They handled it well. They were kind. We all kind of were. Everybody who was waiting in the area was best friends by the end of it. I got there and all of that. And then Valencia, never been. Amazing, beautiful.
Oh yeah, never been. Yeah, it's a nice city.
Strongly recommend it. Really, really impressive city. And on our we only there for 2 nights. Our second day, so the day before we were due to leave, I get an email from BA. Your flight's been canceled.
Obviously.
And I was like, are you effing kidding me? That was 3 of my last 4 BA flights have been canceled.
Athens was
canceled out. Athens was canceled coming back. And so we got to Madrid, and then the one back from Valencia was canceled. And I was like, okay, I know how to do this now. But they automatically rebooked me on a flight. So our flight was supposed to leave at 9:10 p.m. Valencia time. So we had the whole day. I was like, I booked it like that on purpose. And they booked us on a flight to Malaga that around the same time, maybe like 9 o'clock.
Look, you're going south, man.
To Malaga, yeah. Okay. And then a 7.5 hour overnight in Malaga airport before catching a 6 a.m. flight home to Heathrow. And I was like, no, first of all. Secondly, is that really the best option? And then I had a closer look at it, and because I sent you the picture.
The airline was also an airline I had never heard about.
I had never heard of it either, and I could not. I was like, somebody's pranking me. This has got to be. this is a joke, because it was okay. Mel Air. So I didn't know your wife had started an airline.
Yep.
Mel Air for Air Nostrum as Iberia. So one airline on behalf of another airline on behalf of another airline.
I think it's the cascading wet leases that are happening right now.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
And I, like you, had never heard of Mel Air. I heard of Air Nostrum. They operate a lot of the ATRs on the really, really short routes.
Yeah.
Never heard of Mel Air. They are a Maltese company that have 3 airplanes, 3 ATR 42s, who must be making a killing on this whole wet lease thing. And I was like, you know what? That's not going to happen. So I called the BA number, and the guy, again, so nice, so kind, so friendly. He's like, well, this is dumb. He's like, there's a Finnair flight. Well, there's a BA flight at 11:30 a.m. that day. I mean, I know it cuts your time short in Valencia, but it's a direct flight home. Do you want me to just put you on that? And I was like, yeah. And he said, I have no idea why the system thought that was the best option for you. He's like, but to be completely honest with you, for 2 weeks, it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't putting people on any flights. It was just telling them their flight had been canceled.
Our AI is so smart.
and
people on random flight.
And he was so kind. He took care of it really quickly. And he's like, hey man, this is pretty funny, but I am exactly 4 days older than you. Oh. Because I had to go through all the security questions. He's like, oh, no way. And so we had a conversation about like what it's like to be a Leo. And he's like, what are you doing for your birthday? While he was waiting for the system to generate the new thing. Just
that's cool.
Conversational, solve the problem. Really, really nice guy.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so from a service perspective, it was great. They put us on the Finnair flight. And I was like, actually,
sorry. When you called, did you call the gold line?
I called the gold line, which the number is revealed in the app when you're logged in as a gold card. I got through in. Once I'd gone through all of the messages that they give you about blah 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 blah. I think maybe 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, no. Usually that line is good.
And they picked up the phone, and the guy resolved the issue in 5 minutes.
Good. Okay.
Upgraded us to business class because that's all there was left. Yeah.
Nice. And what did you mention Finnair? Is it a Finnair metal?
It's Finnair wet lease. So Finnair metal, Finnair cabin crew, and flight deck crew. And there was I got a little twinge of excitement for that because I was like, oh, Finnair short haul. I don't know if I've ever done that before. I have, but it was an A350, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it. Yeah.
And that was great. And I thought, you know what? These guys are pretty good. So Valencia Airport is like many of the Spanish cities. They're sort of cookie cutter airports, open, airy, modern, well run, efficient. Not too many bells and whistles. There's a single lounge that caters to
everything.
Like so many. But it wasn't busy. It was fine. It's one of those beautiful airports with 2-3 story high floor to ceiling windows, so you get a nice view of the apron. There is the really strange abandoned 747 200.
Oh,
from
abandoned.
It's been abandoned since 2008, and it has racked up 200 million euros in fines. The airline
parking fine.
Exactly.
The dude comes every day and adds another one.
The whole thing's covered in these yellow envelopes. 200 million. No one's taking it. So the parts are useless because it's an ancient airplane, and it just sits there.
But did you read? Did you look it up? Do you know who it belongs to? It's like some lesser that got, that disappeared or something.
It was a cargo company that was
cargo. Yeah.
Bit off more than they can chew, and then when the economy took a dump in 2008. They just walked away from it, and it's been sat there ever since.
That's crazy.
So it just sits there. It sits there on the other side of the airfield with the cargo. And
remember, if you pay within 14 days, you can get half price.
Yeah, only 100 billion euros to get rid of that thing. So that kept me busy.
Oh wow, I forgot about because I've been to Valencia Airport and I'm trying. You know what? Maybe it was before. Yeah, it was before 2008 as well.
Yeah,
otherwise I would clearly recall that.
Because I was like, oh wow, that's cool. Who operates 747-200s? I was like, first of all, I thought it was a 300 because who operates 200s anymore? And then I looked it up and I was like, because I never heard of the airline, and I looked it up and there's
it's still painted, so you can still see
painted, faded.
Oh,
yeah. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I think the Finnair plane came in from London late. Which is fine. We were having a nice yamon sandwich in the waiting area, as one does, and it came in. It was A321, pretty new, not a Neo though. And so they boarded us, but it was like, okay, groups 1, 2, and 3, like all these like stampede of people, because there were a lot of people obviously that had been in the same situation as us and had opted for the earlier flight, and so we got on there, go through. And then they sit on the jet bridge and sit on the jet bridge and sit on the jet bridge and sit on the bed for maybe, and it's like 33 degrees out, glass windows, and it's sort of like you're all starting to cook. To cook. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't really matter. I don't even know what the issue was, but we get on board. A very similar situation to BA, and then in business they just block off the middle seat.
Yeah, that's what they do in Europe, right?
Which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
but it was an excellent experience. The crew were friendly. They were in their Finnair regalia, but they kept on behalf of. The food was outstanding. Menu card, 3 main course options.
Oh wow!
And they're all dough and co.
It's not a long flight. We said repeatedly that in Europe, business is never going to be a long flight, but still, that's cool.
I was like, this is weird. And I thought, this must be Finnair service. No, but it was all BA printed cards, all BA.
Oh, nice.
And I really gave the crew credit because they were trying to work with meals and beverages and procedures that were not their own.
Yeah.
So on the menu card, it had the Speedbird lager, and that's what Megan ordered. And the woman was like looking for it, and she's like, I don't know if it's. And I was like, no, it's the blue one. And we had a laugh about it and a conversation about the beer and everything like that. But they were so friendly and kind, and came back through the cabin, multiple drink services, multiple runs with the bread basket. It was just. I don't know if that was just Finnair or if it's a refreshed version of BA, but it was really good.
I've read some reports that BA is making an effort in the front, but maybe that's that. I don't know.
It felt, maybe it was the combination of kind of the Finnair customer service attitude and a BA product, but it was really good. All 3 options, main course options, looked really good. So yeah, it was impressive. The only thing that I think maybe was a little disappointing for me and maybe everybody else on the airplane is that they didn't tell anybody that we weren't going to T5.
Oh. Which one did you end up arriving at?
Well, so we landed. We did a very long route out over. Not a hole, but just they're like, we're not ready for you. Can you piss off for a little bit? All the way down to Farnborough or out west to Farnborough.
Yeah.
And then back again and join the queue. Because I think they just switched the runways. And that is what it is. We landed and then we pulled in that main channel between T3 and T5 and at the base of the tower, essentially.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, because we got to cut across and then come to and I was like, to Megan, I was like, I bet we'll be on a bus stand. And that's fine. I know it is what it is. I don't really care. And then we just sat. We just sat in that spot between T3 and T5. we sat and we sat and we sat and we sat. And the captain comes on and is like, "Hey, everybody, really sorry. Keep your seatbelts on, but there's somebody in our parking spot. It won't be. It's going to be a few minutes. Don't worry about it. But please stay seated." And 5, 10, 15 minutes go by. He comes back on. He's like, "Hey, so our parking spot is free, but somebody just took it. And it's going to be another 45 minutes."
God.
So
Really?
they turned off the seatbelt signs and everybody could use the restroom. And then eventually they come back on and we start going towards the southerly runway.
Yeah.
And then we turn left. And that's like right before we turn left, I'm like, if we turn left, we're going to T3. And we did. We turned left and we went in. You know there's two little parking spots that you can see from the Cathay First Lounge. It's just a weird little cul-de-sac.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we parked next to a Air France plane, who was obviously lost as well. And eventually, they got off and walked in. T3 was last time I'd been through T3. The queue for immigration had been back up that ramp, no queue at all. Like,
good. At
we were there through in 5 minutes. But I thought, all the people on this airplane have got people waiting for them at their taxis are waiting for them at T5.
Yeah,
And
of course.
And of course, the Finnair crew wouldn't know to tell people, "Hey, we're going to T3 and not T5." It's an easy solution. You just jump on the Heathrow Express; it's free. But you and I know that.
Yeah, most people won't.
Most people won't. Of course, the signs are only in English, and you could tell by the guy. The Finns. I'm painting with broad strokes here. Are generally quite a dry people, very dry sense of.
Watch your mouth. Watch your
very. You know this better than anybody. You all are. You could tell that the captain was really. He's like, "This fucking airport, man. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to come here once or twice a month. I'm having to come here 4 times a day now." But it was.
Had you checked some luggage in? Or
no, mercifully we had not,
mercifully,
because
you've heard
when we came out of immigration and down into the baggage claim area underneath, it was pandemonium. I have never seen more people in that space in my life.
It's crazy.
It was a disaster. And was it that day that you sent me the?
Yeah. So they were massive. I think it was T2. However, the picture I found online, there were so many backlog of luggages that basically they were starting to put all the luggage in front of, like, there's a patio is not the right word. So like landside, the whole patio where you go between the when you exit, they were putting like, I don't know, thousands of luggage. And basically telling people to go home. We'll call you to collect it, or we'll try to send it via, I guess, a cab or whatever. So no, these stories have been recurring at T5, at T3, at T2. T4 just reopened like last week, so we haven't heard stories yet. But yeah, no, it's a disaster.
It is.
You don't want to be checking in luggage, which it's for a trip like yours, it's fine. But if you go to where, for instance, when you go to the US, you don't really have a choice. You're going for like a month or whatever, so you kind of need to check in.
Yeah, I think I would do anything to avoid. It's getting to the point now where. And it's not just sort of anecdotal stories in the news. 3 of my last 4 flights where I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to risk it. I'm trying to. I liked Valencia so much that I messaged Greg, who is in Vietnam and Australia right now.
He's in Australia right now, the bastard.
Yeah.
Because after Vietnam, oh my God.
He's
in Melbourne. I recognized the street he was on. He put an Instagram story. I've been there like 4 years.
And of course, I want to know everything. I want to know who he flew on. I want to know what it was like and all of that. But I said to Greg, I liked Valencia so much. Let's go and do an episode there before I go to America. So we're like, okay, let's make it happen. And I was like, okay, great. I'll just search for the flight on the day. BA have canceled all their flights to Valencia on that day. So, and of course, there's 3 people doing it now. I think Ryanair, EasyJet, and Vueling. And the fares have gone through the roof. I think it was you who said that yesterday or the day before yesterday, Heathrow asked all of the airlines.
Yeah, on Monday. So we're Thursday today. So on Monday, because Matt drink water, who I mentioned often, because he, like me, used to live in Japan, and like me, is waiting for Japan to reopen. He was going to Frankfurt with Lufthansa, and he's going there he was in the early hours of Monday, like these very early flights of Lufthansa that I used to do myself. I would avoid Frankfurt, but for him that was a destination. It was so bad, so of course his flight got cancelled. There were backlog of cancellations, so there were people that had been cancelled before that were already put on the following flights. So there was basically, and at the same time Heathrow required for T2 and T3 that day, they said, we're asking all airlines to reduce their operations by 10%. So basically, depends on your operation, but maybe for Lufthansa, that represents about 2 flights or whatever, or 3 flights. So that was like this cascade. He ended up leaving the airport because there was no way he would be able to leave. Leaving the airport, he went to Frankfurt by train.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like he went to, I think, Paris with the Eurostar, and then caught one of the German trains, ICE, whatever, to Frankfurt. And because like you and me, when we travel for work, we're going for a reason. There's no like, oh, it's holidays and I'm going to delay my trip by 2 days. Like, he literally had to be in Frankfurt for work the next morning. He said, I don't have a choice. There's nothing. I was looking when he was talking to me, you could maybe do Swiss, but they were all full.
Yeah.
Because, with the backlog of the dominoes of early cancellations and people were put on the next day, ended up there was no flights. And so Heathrow, on top of that, asks airlines to reduce operations. I mean,
and Gatwick is doing the same.
I have a lot of notes. I've taken because there's, like you said, it's staffing, but it's staffing the crew, it's staffing, so even pilots, it's staffing ground handling, it's staffing security, but it's also ATC. So at Gatwick, because these are notes I've taken over the past few weeks. So Gatwick typically handles around 52 movements per hour, so departures, arrivals on the runway, and the number had to be reduced to 22 because there was not enough ATC. 22, from 52 to 22. So there's bottlenecks everywhere. If it's not like ground handling that doesn't, there's no one to pick up your luggage, and that happened to me when I came back from, I'll tell you the story next time, but from Pakistan, Qatar Airways, we sat 88 minutes on the ground because there was no gate, and then the luggage was not. I mean, it was like, it's like there's cascading effects of all this. It's just insane.
Yeah. Let's be real. Heathrow was never the slickest operation in the world.
No.
Before this.
Well, let's say it was always tense. It felt that it was like always like on the brink of everything could be falling down. And that's why it's also admirable, because they were able to run an operation with, you remember when it was like a 99 capacity, this airport, and everything, when it was working, it's both a miracle, but also like a feat that those guys were able to run it like clockwork with such tension in the system. Absolutely. Now it's broken because there's not enough people. Yeah. There's just no way. Even if you are less people traveling, we're still, of course, below 2019 numbers. It's just not happening. And the thing, I mean, it's bad in the UK, but it's bad in other airports as well. Amsterdam especially.
Amsterdam. I think earlier this week, Brussels said there were no flights. None. Yes. Zero operating because they just didn't have they didn't have enough people to handle.
I think there were demonstrations, like it was not a strike like we have currently in the UK with the trains, but I think there were demonstrations. But the security staff was planning to demonstrate that there was no security at the airport, though they had to shut down the airport, something like that. Yeah. Which is crazy. So, and Amsterdam was the craziest for me because there's been stories about 6-hour queues for like weeks and weeks. It was really, which was surprising because I always thought Amsterdam was one of the mess. I don't especially enjoy that airport. Like you guys know, I don't especially enjoy KLM either. That's an understatement. But they're very well run.
Yes.
They're very efficient. Well, it seems that it was breaking down because it was 6-7 hours to get into airports. Not every day, obviously. Here we're talking about the peaks. And to the point that Amsterdam and KLM decided, I think it was 10 days ago maybe, they said, you know what? We're going to reset the network. So for a full weekend, we're not going to fly anyone. We're going to ask all the KLM flights to come back empty. So no passengers and no luggage. So imagine you're somewhere and you're supposed to fly. They say, no, we're flying empty because we need to reset the network. So they fly everything back to kind of restart on Monday morning as if, the backlog doesn't exist. It kind of didn't work because, of course, queues were still back on because there's still a domino effect. And you still have to kind of ferry the people back home, even though some of them might have taken other airlines because yours was canceled. So it's really bad. I mean, it's like Lufthansa canceled God knows how many flights for the summer, as BA did, as EasyJet did, as the only airline that is not having any issues, Ryanair.
Yeah, it was just, Ryanair.
You know what? Ryanair, I said that back in when we were emerging from our pandemic pause, I was saying that Ryanair was probably the best run airline before because it didn't really require any help from the government during the pandemic. They were able to sustain this. Well, now they're staffed. They run pretty much like they always did. Mm-hmm. They have no issue because also Stansted, which is one of the main bases of operation, is running pretty fine actually.
Yeah.
So you're wondering, there's still differences. It's not every airline in every airport. But
no, and as you say, because they're not. They obviously have a pretty significant operation at Gatwick. It's nothing compared to what they have at Stansted and Luton, places like that. Where, as you say, they haven't been nearly as affected. I mean, they're not nearly at the mercy of third parties as they are.
But also, let's be so. British Airways said the other day that they have more than 3,000 potential recruits that are stuck in the background checks, the security checks that they need to have because there's a huge backlog because everybody's hiring at the same time, I guess, not only BA. So even though first of all, they're having issues finding staff because some staff left the industry completely because they lost their jobs during the pandemic. Some of them are not coming back. There's Brexit, meaning that some people that were European, they left and they're not coming back. There's let's be honest with BA, they kind of took the opportunity to restructure.
They did.
They fired like 10,000 people or 12,000 people. Yeah. I mean, maybe parts of them were justified. I'm not here, but obviously, and they also reduce, you remember, the terms of conditions that the contracts are not as good as they used to. So they're now trying to fight a talent war, by probably not being also the most attractive of them all. So
no, and now there's a global war for talent. Sure. And I think that they're trying to attract people, and that's not just BA. It's most service-facing.
But BA, meaning I was pointing out BA because it did that restructuration during the pandemic with new contracts. It doesn't help them now.
Exactly, because they're trying to get people back on the same terms as pre-pandemic. And now it's a job seekers market, at least in a lot of industries. And I think that they're feeling the pinch. And you said to me yesterday, or day before yesterday, and I think you're absolutely right, that this is going to go on for well over a year.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's a year and a half, 2 years.
I think so, too. I mean, you just look at the depth of the problems.
I think we'll feel the pinch during the summer because summer is very busy because of the holiday makers, because of people wanting to go to Spain and Portugal and Italy and Greece and whatever. Mm-hmm. So we'll hear more about it. And it's true that maybe the fall, when school's back on, you will hear less about it for a while. But I think the issues are structural. Yeah. It's not just... The summer is not just post-pandemic. There's a lot of stuff that is going on at the same time. The only thing that is the big unknown is we are clearly entering a recession. Mm-hmm. There's just no way out. I think, 6 times out of 9 you and me, Alex, we're not responsible, but when governments are trying to fend off inflation by raising interest rates, which is one of the only ways to do it, 6 times out of 9 we enter the recession out because of that doing. Yeah. So it's just almost logical that it would happen. Yeah. So the only question I have in the back of my head is that if we enter a recession, it's bad. Maybe it won't be bad. Maybe it would be like a little recession. I hope so, touch wood. It also means that some people might not be taking holidays. They have to, reduce their. I mean, we've seen the cost of energy. That's all over Europe, obviously. That cuts on your budget, family budget. Maybe you'll have to take different choices.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we're going with all this.
I mean, I don't know what you're saying, but it was, with my kind of cursory glances, anecdotally anyway, the fares are so high at the moment. Man,
we always work with our minds are connected, because I'm exactly what I was thinking. I've seen, you remember what, during the pandemic, a lot of people, including ourselves, we were like, what will fares do? Will they go down because airlines will have to attract again passengers and reassure them? Now the question is settled. They're skyrocketing the fare. It's insane,
especially on long haul. I mean, for California,
I'm not going to tell you how much Mel is paying to go to Portland this next week.
North America is insane. I've never had to pay this much to go to the U.S.
JetBlue. Remember, I took JetBlue. We did an episode, and I said back when I did, I said one of the reasons, besides it was a great airline and I got a great experience and everything, it was cheaper than the competitions and Delta, United, BA, American, etc., etc. Well, now it still is, but it's crazy. I mean, I go to New York, I think in business class, which the trip I did, instead of 3,000, I think it reaches like 4 or 5, which means that a United or a Delta, which were 4 or 5, are now at 7 and 8,000 to go. I mean, we know that he's talking about New York. It's one of the most profitable routes because of the business aspect, because corporates pay for it. But still, the prices, and it's not only. We're talking here about, low cost is rising as well. The US, the prices are rising all across the board. I think Ed Bastian said that he expects a rise at least 30% all across the board within the US. So that matters, because that's part of the inflation, but it's also part of, can I take a holiday? Maybe I'll be fine, hopefully, but can I take a holiday now that I have to pay everything more, that the wages might not be following, and the cost of living, as you say, is I don't know.
People don't have that room in their budget anymore, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because they cannot lean on business anymore, because it still hasn't recovered to pre-pandemic levels.
No. I have a lot of friends of mine working in very big corporations, the usual that used to be these road warriors, flying for doing a lot of sales, especially in sales departments. I mean, they're flying again, but it all telling me that we're never going to probably fly the same. I mean, I always have a cautious about that word "never." You say that, and then one day it happens anyway. But for the moment, at least, it's not happening. It's not happening. And we have a lot of listeners actually that are these type, or used to be these type of road warriors. And they're not. They're telling me, they're sending me. I'm talking about LA Flyer, LA Flyer on Twitter, who lives obviously in LA, who's telling me he was flying crazy amounts, like all around, like Asia, etc. He's not, because a lot of the stuff is still not happening, and so yeah, you're right. It's very hard to read.
It is hard to read.
Right.
No idea what's going to happen. Everything seems very tentative at the moment. Plans are the airlines that have been historically good value, especially when you're booking 2 or 3 months in advance, are no longer.
No, they're not.
And that's at a macro level. It will be very interesting to see what happens with that. Because you're right. I think people are the first thing, or one of the first things that will go when there's a recession and when inflation is driving prices up and wages aren't matching, is leisure.
Yeah. Although somebody said, I was listening to the radio LBC the other day, somebody from the travel industry, of course I don't remember who it was exactly, but said that at least in Britain, so at least British people, one of the last thing they do is cancel summer holidays.
You know what? And
that they will probably not go to restaurants and not do leisure, other types of leisure first, but they will want to do their summer holidays with the kids.
Yeah, and I can understand that.
Right. Of course.
I can understand. They make sacrifices everywhere to make those happen. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a very optimistic time for air travel.
No, I will be fine. It's true that we're seeing the effects of, because again, we talked about Amsterdam, Heathrow, but Manchester is a disaster. Dublin is a disaster as well. Dublin actually put out a message, I think, because that's one of the things you said yourself when you were describing the travel you just did to Madrid, that, you came earlier than usual just to make sure, right? And now, so airports are saying, please come super early, but now they're saying, please don't come too early either. So I think Dublin was especially, they said, come between 2.5 and 3.5 hours early, but not 4, because if you're too early, we're going to put you basically they're going to put you in a parking lot, standing there with your luggage and not allow you to get into the airport. So, and that comes back to what we were saying. Can they not tell us more dynamically, like, what is the situation today at, let's say, Heathrow T2? Instead of me and you having to kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
What do you feel today?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they all tell us. I mean, when I went to Bastia, so Corsica, I don't think I'll do it today, but when I went to Corsica, I don't know how many, I mean, kudos, EasyJet was great, but God knows how many messages I got from EasyJet telling me to come early, to be prepared, to have all my documents, and to be super early. I'm like, but what does that mean to be super early? By the way, I took the first possible train at 4:30 in the morning to arrive at 5:10 for a flight that was at 7:30 or something like that, right? And that was good, by the way. But you don't know what it means early.
No, you're right. I think there's got to be some intelligence wrapped around it. I mean, they're trying to avoid crowded airports, long security lines, all of that stuff. But we also, as the traveling public, need to have a little bit of visibility into, as you say, what does early mean? I mean, it's funny because Delta, and maybe you're going to mention this at some point, Delta have now put time limits on their lounges because they said, literally said, we are not a WeWork. So they don't, the 3-hour limits now.
Well, it's good
on their lounges.
3 hours,
because they're just getting
even you and me we are early, but 3 hours is good enough, right?
3 hours in the lounge.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, but all that still is stuff we would never have heard before, which means there are issues. People are coming way too early. But because not all their fault.
No.
I cannot just like, you don't know how to travel. I mean, if I hear all these stories, me too. I'm going to go the earliest possible time to not having any issue.
Exactly what I did.
Yeah, exactly. And more so, I mean, long haul, imagine when, I mean, it's already kind of opening, but imagine when Asia goes back full opening, and they still, because Asia will, I believe, require, COVID documents for much longer than, the US just stopped, thank God, the pre-test to go to the US, and I mean, the UK has had nothing for a while. Europe is also, I mean, I went to Bastia, so, now that because of Brexit, we were not part of Europe, we're a third party. I experienced entering into France as a third party country. You had to fill down this form online, the EU, whatever, PLF, so I guess a locator form. And they never checked it. They didn't really seem to care that I did it, right? Yeah. So maybe since it was digital, so maybe since it was online, maybe the airline has a checkbox because this dude did it, and that's how they say they don't even check it physically. But I mean, when Asia, again, not when, if, because they already opened, when it expands, they are checking all these documents. So you add this other layer of having to be early, because not only there's going to be staffing issues and you want to maybe check your luggage and there's like queues for 5 hours, but there's going to be on top, they still have to kind of check those documents. It's I don't think we're going to be out of this super fast, to be honest.
No, me neither.
And on top of that, we're talking about strikes. I mean, we have the train strike here, which it is what it is. EasyJet, the crews based in Spain, are declaring strike for 9 days in July.
That's going to cost.
I mean, but that's the other thing, because wages are not cutting up, and everything is becoming more expensive. I think welcome back to the 70s. Yeah. I think we'll see some of these things happening more. There's been, I mean, we said Brussels Airport had issues. I think that's going to compound the issue of, I think Italy, were not the ATCs or something, they were on strike the other day? Oh, I forgot. Anyway, it's
Season of rest.
You know, we were talking about this of course, not when we were recording. I'm supposed to, I think it's going to be cancelled, but I was supposed to go into Gdansk, so north of Poland, for work. And because I was like, what am I supposed to do? I cannot go by train like Matt just did to Frankfurt to Gdansk. There's just no way. It's really far. I mean, I could, but I mean, it takes me like 2-3 days. And I was like, I ended up booking 2 separate routes.
I think you're very wise.
And one is Lufthansa, and the other one is, I think, BA. I did, yeah. So just to say, like, at least there's like a fallback option, and I gotta get reimbursed the other because I took, of course, I mean, I paid for it. I took like some more, what do you call that, full.
Oh, yeah,
flight.
so, yeah, yeah. And I think you're
because
wise.
you want to be reimbursed because
if you've got to be there.
Notably, BA as without notice they stopped this book with confidence. You remember? I think it's like 3 weeks ago. They one day to the other. So Book with Confidence, guys, was one of these schemes that were put in place during COVID. Who basically, don't worry, book anything you want. You'll be guaranteed to be reimbursed, or being able to switch it to another route. That doesn't exist. It's back to normal time. So unless you have a full flex, basically you're gonna have to pay a fee to get a penalty. So yeah. I don't know what else. I have to book twice.
Well, they're gonna. They're gonna have to reinstate this if this summer is going to be as disastrous as everybody's predicting it is, because it's not. Or they're going to have to pay a lot of EU 261 compensation.
Yeah, have you seen that our magnificent quick scheme seller? That's our Secretary of Transportation, whatever he used to sell quick scheme, get rich scheme, whatever back in the day. What a CV to become a minister of this government. Anyway, he's planning to do a new system of refunds. He wants that the UK has automatic refunds. You know, like the trains in the UK. If your train is cancelled, you get automatically a refund. Which on that part could sound great because you don't have to fight for it. But if you look the fine print, he's basically removing a lot of the EU directives, obviously. So
I was just skeptical of that as soon as I heard it even whispered that it was going to be a possibility.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you fly from or to the EU, I think you still have some protection because you are at the end of the day. Because we're next to the EU, it's not going to change a lot unless you go, I don't know, London to Inverness or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so you at your during your magnificent attaché, you do not all episodes. I know you get a lot of pressure. You do the McDonald's, the most reliable index. I didn't know that there is another index called the Pret Index, which is run by Bloomberg. And interestingly, the highest they've ever been is Heathrow and Gatwick and Newton, which could tend actually to show that people are so delayed that they spend their time at Pret.
I tell you what, the Pret and Heat at T5 is always the busiest eatery by far. People love it. And I realized going to Bastia at that ungodly early hours that the Weatherspoons at Gatwick South Terminal is full with people having beers at 5 a.m. Absolutely believe it.
It's crazy. Oh, man. So you were talking about, that's why I asked you about Finnair, because I read only yesterday that Finnair is basically printing money. So what Finnair is doing is said, BA needs a lot of aircraft, of wet leases. And let's be blunt about it. The main reason is also Brexit, because they cannot find enough people. So BA has already put their short-haul base in Spain. They moved their base in Spain, so to have access to more staff via AAG, obviously. And now, so they BA, EasyJet, and TUI, the three airlines here in the UK, they're all using wet leases, but BA is one of the biggest one because they don't have enough staff. So this wet lease is basically you get everything in one package. You get an aircraft, you get the staff in one package. And Finnair found this great business model because Finnair basically are lending all their flights, all their aircraft, and crew to BA. And then they're doing their own wet leases in Finnair for their own network at a much cheaper price because they can have. So it's kind of this cascading. So your experience in Valencia that you didn't end up doing, we're going to see it more and more maybe because you'll have, when you want to fly, I don't know, maybe one day BA will lend their own aircraft to AA. Yeah. So you're going to fly AA, ended up in BA, which is Finnair, which is the other. It's great.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, if you have what are they, ACMI, that's the label for these wet leasing companies. If you have one of those right now, you are, as you say, printing money because they are. I look on, I have Flight Radar open and running, and I'm like, that's an EasyJet flight, but that's not an EasyJet airplane. Often, and all of these tiny little airlines with 3, 4, 5, 6 airplanes from all over Europe. Maltese, a lot of Spanish. So it's very strange. And in my case with Finnair, it was actually a positive. But I don't know what it would be like to show up to a BA flight and go on some military transport.
Yeah, and I've like an Hercules. And I know it's a first world problem, but I had a few friends of mine who, because of these as well, got downgraded. You fly to the US and they say, oh, well, sorry, the only room we have is in economy for today, so take it or leave it. And again, first world problem, but if you pay, like we just, the amounts of money that we just mentioned, I hope you don't have to fight to get reimbursed because I don't want to pay like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 to get stuck in a middle seat on United.
And I think regarding reimbursements, I know that the backlog for EU 261 for BA, I don't know about any other airlines, but it is months. Months, like months and months and months.
Did you get reimbursement?
No, no. And now I have to do it again because our Finnair flight or the BA flight that became Finnair is EU 261 eligible.
Protected, yeah. I don't know, man. It sounds so. I mean, look, we're not here saying to you guys that you should not fly. We all should, and it's not a dig, by the way. I don't think the existing staff has anything. The poor people working currently at both airports and airlines. I mean, the shit they must start. Part of my friends, they must be going from passengers, and it's not their fault.
It's not their fault at all.
It's mostly not their fault. I mean, you have limited. They probably even pushed to their limits in terms of how many turns they have to do per day. How many? What's being asked of them is big. The pressure, and again with a disgruntled passenger. I mean, not all of us are assholes when we talk to.
Yeah,
but I mean, probably tensions are rising high.
They need like infinite patience from us because, as you say, it's not their fault, but they're the ones having to deal with it.
It's not their fault. No, it's really not. It's really not. And because I've heard these stories as well in the US. I think at Toronto, Pearson, they had to even call in the police to do crowd management because the people were getting so angry at delays and whatever. So it's really, I guess, like when you live every country and you guys, wherever you live, you hear the stories in your country and you think, oh, we're the worst. It's never been that worse. The thing is, when you ask around, it's literally, I've seen stories in like Charles de Gaulle, the new Berlin. We waited for it like 150 years to have a new airport in Berlin. And apparently it's already a disaster. The queues are like 4 hours. And the airport, because of the layout, I haven't seen it yet, but because of the layout, which is a bit passé, it's really nice, but it's a bit thought as an airport from the 90s, apparently. That's what I've been told. It's just not made for massive queues, so people are just pulled down in very weird queues around blocks within this thing, and it's everywhere. I've heard bad stories about Frankfurt, but I mean, you know me, Frankfurt, obviously there's bad stories about Frankfurt. What else would you expect of Frankfurt?
Your nemesis.
So in the US, they're being creative, I guess. So American Airlines is now introducing a new type of aircraft, very, very new type of aircraft we've never heard about, to do like smaller routes. They're introducing buses. So Alex, you're going from, I don't know, I think it's in the Philadelphia area they're introducing this. It's called Landline. I think this is a company, I remember hearing about that company in the 4 years ago. So I think it's not AA, the AA Landline, it's just some joint venture. But so you arrive at an airport, and instead of doing your last little leg with maybe an ATR or an Embraer or whatever, you end up being in a bus.
I can't decide how awful that is or if it's kind of genius. Like I mean, taking the train from Madrid to Valencia, I was like, oh, this is so much easier.
The train.
But then a bus, I mean, I suppose you got to deal with traffic and all of that. I wonder how that's being received by the traveling public.
I don't know. I hope you get your miles and everything, but I don't know. And I'm not sure you have like business seats. Again, we're talking here the US where people are used to have actual, they call it first, by the way, actual, a
different
proper
product
seats in the front. I'm not sure the bus has it, but I don't know, by the way. So, but it's not the first time because I know, I remember Continental was doing that, maybe even United. They were doing this back, we're talking like 20 years ago or something, so it's not totally new. And in Europe, you have Air France and Lufthansa, but it's not really a route. It's like, you, Alex, want to go to the airport and we're going to pick you up.
An additional service, yeah.
Yeah, it's an additional, exactly.
It's not getting you to your destination.
Here in the US, these are actually like 3-4 hour rides with a bus. Guys, if you try it, let us know. I don't know if it's... I'm not sure. I kind of like the idea of flying, obviously, that I'm not sure I would be very enthralled to be in a bus. I'd rather I do it on my own and pay for my own bus or for my own train rather than having... Though maybe, I don't know. And the other one, the SkyWest, so SkyWest, and we talked... now years ago, you remember we have these. The US is a strange market that you know much better than I do, Alex, which has these rules. So you have the network, the big airlines, and you have the smaller airlines, and they don't have the same rules applied to them in terms of pilots and crew and etc. Which is why most of you suddenly transit from AA to American Eagle or something, right? So SkyWest decided, because they have a shortage of staff, they said, you know what, we're going to create a new airline. They call it, I think, a SkyWest Charter, if I'm not mistaken. And what they do is that, because apparently when you are on this smaller airline, the requirements to get certified for a pilot is only, I think, 500 hours, whereas for the big airlines is 1,500. And since they don't have enough pilots, they say, you know what, we're going to create an entirely new airline just to have more pilots because we can onboard them.
I wonder if it's the difference between Part 135 and Part 91, and I'm sure that's
exactly that. Part 135.
Yeah, and that's scheduled versus ad hoc. I think LA Flyer would be able to tell me that. I should know this, but
pretty sure that's one. It's part 135.
That sounds sketchy.
Well, I don't. Would you really care if because especially again, I don't fly enough domestic in the US. But when I did that American Eagle, I wasn't aware it was American Eagle until I basically boarded the aircraft.
SkyWest I think does multiple airlines. They fly routes for multiple airlines, so they'll have some planes in a Delta livery and some in a United. I don't know if that's accurate, but I know that they do that. And then you have all of those little things like Jet Suite X and some of the smaller Cape Air, people like that, and I'm sure they're running on the different certificates as well, and always have.
Always have,
yeah. So it's an interesting. We'll see how it works out. I will almost certainly do some short haul flying in the U.S.
When are you going next month?
Yeah, in 2 and a bit weeks.
Were you flying with?
BA to San Jose, which is a route they've been chopping with wanton abandon lately, so I'm not massively confident. But I'm sure I'll do some domestic or regional travel while I'm there as well.
Yeah, when you're there. Yeah, as you always do. We'll try to record when you're there. Maybe we'll record one before you leave. If not, we're gonna do when you're there. It's not only the staffing and the issues of our supply chain is not only on the aircraft and airline side. It's also on the manufacturers. I've read the other week that Airbus has 20 fully built jets, but they don't have engines. And there's no engine coming. So basically, they're sitting there waiting for engines, and of course, the customers are waiting for the airplanes to be delivered. So the knock-on effect is all over the place.
Wow!
It's some airlines, I think Lufthansa is reintroducing. They said no, never, but they're reintroducing the A340.
Yeah.
Because they have no choice. I know that Al Baker is not happy because he has to. He actually said it. He has to reintroduce the 380 he doesn't want to, but obviously he's fighting with Airbus on the 350, so he has to make a choice. Man, Albaker, make a choice. Make a choice. So he's reintroduced, I think, 6 out of the... How many did they have? 10? I don't remember. So you could be able to fly a 380 with Qatar, which I've never done, so maybe I'll be able to do it. And Tim Clark of Emirates is getting very upset about Boeing.
Really is.
Because Boeing have their own issues. So now the 777X, which the problem is at a total standstill. Now it's being delayed to probably, that's what Tim Clark says, end of 2024.
Jeez.
Remember, he was supposed to get it the first one in 2019 or something. So, 2020, end of 2025. And the Dreamliner program is also having a lot of issues. They're super late. And he says that, you remember he ordered 30, I think, for Emirates. And they're also delayed probably now 2023. But he went as far as saying, I'm not sure I'm going to take them. Mm-hmm. I might not even need them. I don't want them. I want the actual term he used. He asked Boeing to grow a pair, basically, I think, and to build that 777X. He absolutely needs that 777X as fast as he can. So the only thing he's happy about is the 350. He says, "Yeah, the 350 is online. He's coming on."
Yeah, I read an article because it's coming up to Farnborough, so there's a lot of movement on orders. And one of the things he keeps saying is to Airbus, you got to make a bigger plane. You got to make a bigger plane because how am I going to take an A380's worth of people into a slot controlled airport like Heathrow or San Francisco, with a plane that's just
Tim, the aircraft is called the 380.
Yeah.
That's the bigger plane.
But I think maybe
I told you, man. I told you, we're gonna regret. Airbus is going to regret having had to cut this down. I mean, I know the economics are almost not workable, but it works.
People are going to look at this wonderful airplane called the 747 again and go, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the other one.
747-800, not that fewer people than a 380. But, I think we're entering a new chapter of the airline industry.
Yeah, no, clearly. We have to live with our times, Alex. There's no more 747s. The 380s, again, we'll have them for a while because Emirates, we just heard, Qatar, they will fly for another 10, 15 years at least. So that's I think the last 380 has not yet been delivered is not yet been flown by Emirates. So it's fine. We're fine. But yeah, I mean, come on. But yeah, Airbus should do like a 350-2000.
Yeah, they said, Tim Clark said the 1000 isn't big enough. Doesn't hold as many people as the X.
Yeah, because the 777X, the large version, will be bigger than so it's, I know, but reintroduce the 380 Airbus. I don't know, find a way. You have it. It's like everybody I know wants to fly the 380 if they haven't. It's like, no matter how ugly, because arguably it is ugly, it stands out.
It does.
I mean, my favorite aircraft nowadays is the 350. By far, I love it. But by the way, it's a kid of the 380 because it seems like it's a same plane with they learn everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They build the smaller one. But the 380 stays something out of, I don't know. It's like science fiction.
Yeah, it's a Studio Ghibli airplane.
Double decker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway. Have you heard about, and we'll go to your flight to Medellin, have you heard about Norse?
Yeah.
Norse, Norse Atlantic
They
Airlines.
are spamming the hell out of me on Instagram.
I was about to say. But you know what? They seem to be doing the Norwegian thing. So for the moment, you can only fly from Oslo to the US, but they're introducing London in the fall. So I've looked at the price because I've also been completely ad spammed by them. The prices are okay, and they fly Dreamliners, since we're talking to the Dreamliners. So, I mean, since Norwegian is almost nowhere to be seen anymore, it would be nice to have a little competition. So
little price pressure is very welcome at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know which air terminal they'll fly. Said T4 reopened. I've heard they made refurbishment. I know that's an airport that a terminal that you know very well, Alex. I don't know what refurbishment means. However, what I know is that Air France et KLM, since you just mentioned Air France being stuck at a gate next to you when you were landing back, Air France et KLM are going to stay at T2, which is very bizarre because SkyTeam was going to be broken up now. So So Qatar has moved to T4. They were the first one to move at T4. All the others, they've got a few that they were T4. I don't know what's going on here as well. Do they have actually enough staff to reopen another terminal? That's my biggest question.
No. The answer is no.
And good news for us, as I said, mentioned JetBlue earlier. So JetBlue has now been given permanent slots at Heathrow. They were temporary. So there's going to be once a day from Heathrow to New York and once a day to Boston.
That's great.
So 2 flights. And it's going to be twice a day to New York from Gatwick and once a day to Boston from Gatwick. That is cool.
That is cool. They are such a good airline as you've experienced. So I'm delighted that was cemented.
And in the US, you will be experiencing that probably at some point because you fly BA. BA will move to T8 at JFK. Have you ever been to T8?
Yes.
I have. Mm-hmm. Is it better than T7?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I've heard that even T7, I think they're going to knock it down.
I think that's a very fitting end.
I think that they should do that about T3 here at Heathrow. I mean, I just we're gonna get a new Heathrow by 2075. We'll be dead by then.
Exactly.
Neilman, since we're talking JetBlue, the CEO of Breeze now. So Breeze are they flying?
Mm-hmm.
They're flying already. So that's something you could try when you're in.
Yeah, they're some Midwest secondary airports at the moment.
Well, I mean, Discovery for layovers is
research project.
He says that the 220-300 is a game changer, and that's the best airplane he's ever seen, and all that with more passenger, less fuel burn, and you will never do anything else again. So, yeah, good. You guys in the US, you'll see more 220s, which is good. It's a great aircraft. And finally, before we move to your flight to Medellin, have you seen? It's not I mean, thank God there was no one died. That Red Air, I never had heard about that.
Dominican?
Maybe the Dominican
Republic?
I
think it's Dominican.
Yeah, maybe. So I think the front gear collapsed on landing at Miami International, and the plane got fire, so they had to do an evacuation, and obviously there's videos, and everybody's taking their
carry-on. And what's amazing about there's a lot of that's amazing about that story, but the fire crew had water on the flames within 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing considering the size of that airport. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I was thinking, that was my first reaction too, was these people are filming themselves taking their bags off. But there were a lot of people who were pointing to these articles about how the brain reacts in trauma. It goes
we
back
talked
to
about it, remember?
Yeah, it's like seatbelts.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do they tell you how to? Well, because when you're panicked, you
think about, you do the stuff that
your brain goes into
such the context. I know. I think we had an episode where we discussed about that for quite a long time.
And then
you're right.
kind of, I was going to say reignited, that's just a poor use of words, but they resurrected this conversation about redesigning the experience around human behavior as opposed to trying to change human behavior in a crisis. So I doubt anything will happen. If 50 people, if one person had died, maybe, but I don't think anything's
maybe we'd have asked questions. But the reason I wanted to point it out is because there's a video. So there's multiple videos of this, of course, online. But there's one I shared it the other day on my Twitter. And what I love about it, because we're talking about how the brain works and how you always do the same things over and over again. So switch it up. It's not the passenger, but literally. There's this guy about to jump off the plane on the evacuation slide, and the crew says, "Muchas gracias, hasta luego." And you're like, "Thank you very much. Like, come again. Thank you for flying with us." Like, it's amazing. I loved, and I say that with a lot of love. That made me laugh in a good way. I was like, dude, you're literally about to jump off a
burning
plane that is on fire, and the crew tells you, "Muchas gracias, hasta luego," and I love it. Thank you for being a valued customer. Please fly with us again.
Oh my God.
Anyway, but again, you know what? Again, the guy was probably, because he was efficient at pushing the people on the slide. I think it like exactly what you said. you do what you do. This crew was probably doing what he always does when people are leaving the aircraft. He says, well, thank you very much and see you soon. There you go. Anyway, so, man. Talking about, since we're leading to South America to close off the episode, we have more than 20 minutes. So depending how long you go, we can do something else or not. So tell us. I mean, I want to hear everything because I'm very, very jealous of you having been to Medellin. I remember that's the last thing I know about the story because I didn't ask anything about it to Alex to have the surprise. The only thing I know is that you were not sure which airline and route you were about to fly, not a week before.
Yeah, it was.
What did you end up doing?
I had very specific dates that I was able to go on this trip for a variety of reasons, and about 2 weeks before the trip, the organizer sent me a message saying, "Okay, our airline partner is Air Europa," and I thought, Air Europa, they're based out of Madrid, and so I looked at the schedule and I'm like, okay, well they do London, Madrid, Medellin direct, and I thought, okay, well that's okay because the original flights that I had proposed were London to Bogota, Bogota to Medellin on Avianca because they fit in with my schedule. And then I had a look, I'm like, but they don't run that route on the date that I need from Air Europa. And I waited and I waited. And I told them that as soon as I found out, I said, I need to go on these dates. And I noticed that Air Europa don't operate that route.
Yeah.
And then maybe 3 days before I was supposed to go, Avianca tickets arrived that I had initially requested.
Nice.
And I was excited for this trip for lots and lots of reasons, but mainly because I'd never been to South America before. So this was the first.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I don't know how it came out. We were just discussing, you and me, as we always do, I think it was on WhatsApp that day. And you said that, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, for me, you're such a well-traveled person that I was under the impression that, of course,
so you've never been to
South
Canada.
America.
I've never been to an entire flipping continent. So,
Mark, listen to this. Stop teasing me.
I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing. I thought I'll get there eventually. So I was very excited for that. And then when the Avianca tickets came through, I was like, hey, this is exciting. I've never been on Avianca.
Nice.
So what a super exciting.
What a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. And they operate out of T2. It was a Dreamliner service to Bogota. And Greg and I met up at T2 and went into the plaza. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll tell you what. We met there's a new Chinese restaurant in T2. Yeah, I think it's an extension.
Landside or
airside?
Airside, okay. I haven't been to T2 since pandemic. I've only been to. Or have I? No,
it felt like a Chinese restaurant that you would see in Hong Kong airport. Like, legit.
Okay.
And we met in there, had a beer and some.
And you know your.
I know my airport Chinese food.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was really actually rather pleasant. I was surprised. And our flight was at I think maybe 11:30 at night. One of the last flights to leave T2. But by 10 p.m., 9:45, the place was pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Places were.
Yeah, I did once. Yeah. I remember doing that once pre-pandemic. I don't know where I was flying to, and like there's no one. It's like you feel. Did they close the airport? Am I alone?
I don't. I mean, they do close it eventually, and if like the whole turn, like shutters were coming down. The only place that was left open was the Plaza Premium Lounge downstairs, and even then, like long before our flight, they came around saying, "Okay, fellas, last orders because we're closing up."
Yeah, I think the terminals do not close, but all the shops, all the amenities close at 10, 11 or something, and reopen at 5 or 6, depending on where you are. Or if you're at T5C, never reopen. Sorry, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing is that ours was at the terminal or the gates where you have to go under and walk.
Oh, B.
The T2B.
Oh, you walk
around, which I don't mind. I kind of like doing it. And you're walking under the taxiway and all that. And so we get out there and they were very strict on, you had to have your COVID documentation and all of that prepared and ready to go. And we boarded, and the flight was all over the kind of boarding area. They had these temporary signs that said, "We're so excited to be back." Avianca, so excited to be. And I guess they had shut down that operation, almost all their long haul, for 2 years. And I think we were maybe in the first month of operations. And we got on, and there was a piece of printed A4 paper on everybody's seat that said, "We're still ramping things back up. So things are a little bit different from what you may have experienced pre-pandemic." And the woman in front of me just picks up the piece of paper and reads it, and then just goes, "Oh, that means dinner's going to be shit." And it was amusing. But the flight was like maybe, I don't know, half full. I had a row 3 to myself. I was very lucky.
Oh, nice.
And nice kind of red mood lighting.
So hold on. You were flying with Greg, but you both had like
I had a row 3. I think he had a seat in between him and the next person. We never sit together. We never ever sit together when we travel together.
Yeah, because 3 days is enough on the ground. That
He would be so done with me by the end of it. And it's funny because they weren't kidding when they said it had been stripped down, because they had the IFE maybe had like 5 movies on it, and there was no Wi-Fi, even though there was an antenna on it.
Yeah, because it's Dreamline.
Yeah, Dreamline. There was hardly any TV shows, anything like that. No. But you know what? I went straight to sleep. I didn't even eat because it was, by the time we got airborne, it was the night. I don't know if you remember, but there was a huge thunderstorm.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, and of course, I had to secure stuff.
Huge lightning and thunder, and it went on. And Megan was messaging me saying, and we flew basically through/over it to go. We went directly west towards Devon and Cornwall, and I was like, any minute now, we're going to get struck. If we were in a non-composite airplane, I'm very sure we would have. But it was like right next to us.
Is that why? Because you told me yesterday, Paul, don't forget to ask me about turbulence.
Oh, yes, thank you. I would have forgotten. So I always go on turbulenceforecast.com, and I have done for years. I like to look at the jet streams. I like to look at where there's going to be turbulence so I can kind of plan my rest. And I'm a dork, so I just like to know that kind of thing from an armchair pilot perspective.
You made me almost
sorry, he's drinking coffee.
Sorry.
And I put it into Google, and this new one came. I said, turbly.com. I was like, what the hell is this? And I go in there. It's a very simple website, and you put in your origin airport and your destination airport, and it shows you all of the flights, and you say today or tomorrow. It shows you all the flights that are operating. You're like, oh, that one. And then it gives you a visual, like a timeline of your flight and a graph of potential turbulence throughout the flight.
Oh.
And it says,
that's cool.
Light turbulence towards the end of the flight. And then it's got a graph of your headwinds. So normal headwinds en route, your flight should be on time. And it is so, A, it's accurate, and B, it's such a, because with turbulenceforecast.com, which is great, you're getting the same maps that the pilots use, which if you don't really know what you're looking for, they're very difficult to interpret.
Yeah.
But this is really user-friendly, really. And the guy, he is a PhD, literally, not a sort of like I'm a PhD in being a travel dork. He is he works in turbulence modeling and computational fluid dynamics, and he did his doctoral thesis on that, and writes papers on turbulence modeling and turbulence prediction. And they use the NOAA, which is the National Oceanographic and something atmospheric, whatever, labs, the same data, but they put it in a completely different, and it's this one guy does it, and which I think turbulenceforecast.com is as well, but it's so well laid out, so well presented.
So did you use it for that flight?
I used it for that flight, and
so you thought that you might encounter some turbulence at the start because of
I mean, you're up over
yeah, of course,
over quickly, but you can get the cumulonimbus, which are the kind of the big fat ones which generate a lot of turbulence and thunderstorms. But it was, it ended up, I slept most of the flight coming in. And Greg, when we landed, I said, "Did you eat?" And he sort of looked at me like he had been abused. And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "You should be very happy that you were asleep." And he described them as, he said, I think breakfast, he's like, it was a cheese wrap, but it was wet. Is that normal? And I said, I don't know, man. You've been to Colombia. I haven't. So I don't think I missed anything on that part of it.
Good.
But
well, good.
We had a layover. We landed at 3:30 a.m. in Bogota.
Oh, Bogota. Okay.
Went through immigration. That was really easy. And then it's like America. You go through immigration and you have to.
Oh, so then you're domestic,
which makes sense because it's your first point of entry into a foreign country. And the Bogota airport is new, recently regenerated. International terminal was good. You go back through security, which was easy, and into a very, very nice lounge where we ended up actually inadvertently sitting next to a person who was also there for the same event that we were for like 2.5 hours, and then out onto another Avianca flight, an A320 to Medellin, which is a 35-minute flight. It's very, very
short. Wow, that's short. Oh, wow.
And it was I think our flight was 6 a.m. Standard A320 configuration, no IFE or anything fancy like that. Very friendly cabin crew. And we take off, and that airspace is so busy because people are going back and forth between Medellin and Colombia. Medellin has 2 airports, so there's all that traffic and cargo traffic.
So you were at which one? MDE,
we were at the big one, which is the other one is for much more kind of regional domestic traffic.
Okay.
And interestingly, as you're taxiing down the runway at Bogota to take off, there is a very dilapidated looking Avianca Dreamliner with engines stripped, painted titles. So I don't know what the story is there. I couldn't find any information about it. And you're going past like
anyone in Colombia. I know we have
I'd love to know
in
the
Colombia
story there because it didn't.
Tell us.
It didn't seem like a very old airplane. And you go past the Colombian National Police, have a very big air force, for want of a better word. Big, small airplanes, big airplanes. So you go past that, and this random collection of secondhand military airplanes.
That's cool.
And take off, and it's beautiful. Colombia, as this country, is beautiful. So I'm kind of pressed to the window, looking at all the jungle and the mountains and all of that. And Medellin itself is in a valley, as is the airport. So you're kind of coming down and hugging the mountain, not as extreme as somewhere Montevideo, Nepal, or somewhere like that. Yeah, nothing like that. But it's like pretty intense. And we start sinking into this cloud, and I was like, Greg's like, video out the window. So we have something to talk about for the airport segment. And it's also beautiful, and the light's amazing because it's dawn. And we're just, we go into the cloud, and I was just about to put my phone away, and bam, in our seats, we go back like hard, full throttle, like pull back on the stick so everybody gets slammed. People are yelping and screaming because it was a very violent action. We must have been 300, 400 feet off of the deck, and the pilot, they did their, aviate, communicate, and then whatever the other one is, where they flew the airplane first, and we took off, and we go back up.
Of course.
And they obviously were not happy with what they were seeing. Couldn't see the runway or anything like that. They never actually said. And they said, conditions aren't right for landing here. Ordinarily, we would wait, and we would just circle a couple of times, wait for this to pass, and we would go back in again. But we don't have enough fuel, so we're going back to Bogota.
No, wait, what?
So we went back to Bogota, and...
No way!
Back to...
What's me?
It's only half an hour, right? So we could have stayed in the air for an hour and burn fuel, but we went back.
Yeah, but apparently they were expecting that it would not clear.
They were expecting it not to clear. So they made whatever decision they made was the right decision. And we went back, and so of course I'm looking on the phone, and then we were the plane after us had to go and went around and tried again to land it, and everybody else landed. We were just incredibly unlucky. But then it got a little bit chaotic because we sat there and I was watching planes on flight radar. Like, is any?
So basically, you were sat in the plane.
We landed at Bogota, sat on a remote stand.
Oh, so they didn't.
We didn't disembark.
You just
sat there and like, okay, just sit tight because as soon as this clears, we're gonna go. And I'm watching other planes. Like, is anybody else having a go at landing at Medellin? No. And then they started, but they'd said, oh, if anybody wants to get off, you can. And so they had to bring a bus out, and then people were like, actually, yeah, I want to get off because we've been on the ground for an hour and a half now. And then, of course, they're like, oh, shit, we need to get your bags off, too. And then that's a whole thing. That adds another hour and a half. And like, if you want to get off. And if you don't, you got to sit down. And so we then...
It's rare. Usually they don't really allow you to do that. I've never.
And I was like, this is like a security issue written all over it. And then they had to go through and you had to show everybody your boarding pass. And then they read the PNR over the radio to confirm or if the person was on to dispatch. And I was like, oh my God. So eventually we tried again and it was easy. We landed at Medellin, I think 4.5 hours late.
Wow. Did a lot of people...
I think half the plane got off.
A lot of people had left?
Because they had other places to be, and that's fine. Or they just said, "I'll screw it. I'll just do it tomorrow." We did not have that luxury. And then Medellin, you're just it's a domestic airport for the most part, or at least the terminal that we came into. But it is. I mean, it is in a valley. It's a small airport with a lot of traffic because there's so many new Latin American airlines or subsidiaries of Latin American airlines. There's a low-cost war going on in that part of Latin America. Mm-hmm. But it's very, you get out and you're airside in 90 seconds at most. But Medellin is in this valley and the airport is on the other side of one of the mountain ranges. And so you used to have to go around and down the side of the mountains.
All around.
Took it, a long time. But I think... a few years ago, not very long ago, they just built a tunnel right through the side of the mountain. And I think the tunnel is maybe the 30th longest in the world, which doesn't sound impressive, but you're in that thing. It feels like for freaking ever. And then you come down the side and you go down into Medellin itself. But I liked Avianca a lot. I think it was a pretty bare bones, product offering, but it was unique and it was friendly. It felt like an adventure for me because I'd never been to that part of the world or on that airline. And then coming back, like I said, Medellin itself is also a very newish, like 5-6 years old refurbishment. Lots of good amenities. We had to check in because I was checking a bag from Medellin all the way through back to London because I bought rum.
I was about to ask if you bought aguardiente.
We got that too.
Drink, because that's probably why you had that bug afterwards, because you drank too much.
Or not enough.
Getting your award. Congrats, by the way, for your award. But that's probably why you had aguardiente. And then
But the one thing I will say, like, we had to wait in this queue, and every single Avianca person that we interacted with was delightful.
Oh,
friendly, but then also so helpful. Not just to me. I watched them because I was not feeling good at this point. And the guy, like,
already,
he's like, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "London." He's like, "This queue takes me up." And we were in economy. There was nothing. I have no status. There's nothing special. And then I watched this woman. She had her child with her and a heavy bag. And he's like, "No, please let me take. Which would you like me to take, the baby or the luggage?" "I'll take both if you'd like." And takes her up. He's like, "Let me check you in business class." He's like, but she's like, "No, I'm economy." He's like, No, please. The check-in agents.
That's amazing.
I was so impressed by that.
That's amazing.
It was just really, really kind. They were all pretty young. That kind of stood out at me. They're all in these bright red uniforms. Security line was hundreds of people deep, but went really quickly. The lounge you were mixed in. It was all domestic, so the people are going all over the place. The lounge was was small but comfortable and had a great view of the apron. All these planes, from all over, military, civilian, and everything in between. And then when you take off towards the mountains that separate the airport from the city, and there was this wall of cumulonimbus clouds. And so you go up and hard right, and a simple, easy, beautiful light because it was the right time of day. And then I think we had not very long in Bogota, but that transition was simple because you were already airside. Had some arepa and a beer in the lounge, and I again slept the whole way back. I actually upgraded myself. Bogota Airport is big, and the LATAM lounge.
Did you have any access to lounges?
Yes, with Priority Pass, I had access to a few third-party lounges, as well as the LATAM lounge, which was huge, and the Avianca lounge. So Greg and I went into the Avianca.
Okay. Oh yeah, but you just
I upgraded myself because I was feeling
upgraded yourself
so wretched.
How was?
I was feeling so bad, I just had to sleep on the flight. So I was like, I don't really care what it costs. It wasn't bad. And it was the business class experience on Avianca was very similar to like an American Airlines. It's the herringbone, feet under the seat, the standard business class experience. Nice big screen, very comfortable and nice amenity kit. But I was asleep before takeoff. And slept.
Well, good for you because you were not feeling great.
I slept the whole flipping way.
Honestly, I think only once in my life I flew being sick. It's the worst.
And at least it was on a Dreamliner, where so the cabin humidity was greater and the pressure altitude was lower. The crew.
And you want to. Sorry to be a bit graphic, but you also want to. This is why you want to. So you want to upgrade yourself if you can, and thank God you were able to. For the comfort of having a bigger seat, but also for the ratio of people toilet. Because
you're absolutely right.
You have faster access if you're
and
really
the flight
sick.
was full. I would have toughed it out maybe if I had a seat next to me and I could have got some rest. But I was I don't think I'd ever felt that bad in my life. And I was like, I just need to do this.
Yeah, you were.
And the crew were great. They left.
And that was some kind of weird bug, right?
I still don't.
Yeah. It was not
wasn't COVID.
Guys.
No, I tested negative the whole time. But the crew noticed, like, I woke up maybe top of descent, and they're like, hey, you haven't eaten anything all flight. Is there anything that we can get you? Would you like us to put a fruit bowl together? And I just said, a cup of coffee, which would be great. The coffee, incidentally, you would expect to be amazing on a Colombian airline, was horrible. The coffee in Colombia, interestingly, also horrible. Because we went on a food tour for the episode, and the guy said, it was just like me and Greg and this guy, and he said, we export all the Primo stuff.
Yeah.
So we get left with the dreck. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, why? I don't want to be rude, but I thought I would have good coffee here. He's like, no.
No. Well, there's a lot of other, I don't think the episode is out.
No, not
I haven't
yet.
checked
We're
YouTube, but I don't think you. Yeah, okay. So I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that you don't. That besides coffee, that makes it. My brother-in-law, who just basically brought me that coffee from Cafe Nero, perfect timing. Did a huge tour in South America, including Colombia and Medellin, and he was telling me the stories, how cool it is. So there's much more to discover and to enjoy. we're not going to spoil it. Whenever the episode comes out, guys, subscribe to Attaché on YouTube. And how do they do? You don't do that, but you subscribe and then press
smash that like button
bell so you get notified.
Yeah, that one is actually useful for people like me.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm subscribed to probably.
Oh
10
I know.
I probably it because I don't really go on YouTube, and I do, but randomly. So I think I am on yours. You're my only kind of notification, I guess, because otherwise I'm like, I don't want to hear about it.
No, I'm the same way. It helps me as a creator for sure when people do the notifications thing, but the rest of it is not so much.
Yeah, but so there was. But did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Without spoiling the episode, did you enjoy it?
Medellin was great. Really, really interesting experience, and I'm looking forward. Greg had been there before, so he had an idea of what to expect, but I didn't. So it was a very exciting feeling of arriving not just in a new in a new country or city, but in a new continent. And there's only a handful of times where you get to experience
you'll be going back. Sure. Trust me, you have to. You have to do Brazil,
Argentina,
Chile,
absolutely.
Uruguay.
So much
many
to do
things
down there.
To be done, man. You have like a whole life ahead of you to do more attaché episodes in cities there. I'll help you out, whichever you want. But it's well, more than 2 hours, so I think we're gonna close that soon. I don't know, guys. I don't know if we're gonna record another one before Alex flies to the US. Maybe not. We'll try to, because I got a lot of messages. Can you release more often? Well, if COVID notwithstanding, we would have. So we'll try to do another one. Otherwise, when you're in the US, we'll figure it out. And I had so many other things about it. So I didn't mention, of course, my flights to Corsica. I'll do it maybe the next. But honestly, Pakistan probably is going to be the next, because
very excited to hear about this.
It requires. It was flying there, but especially flying domestic on Pakistan Airways (PIA) was an adventure of in itself. And I'm still thinking about some of the stuff I want to describe about how I want to describe them, because some of the stuff was really out. It was great, but the top line it was an amazing. I had an amazing time, even though it was 49 degrees and above what a human body can actually sustain. I mean, climate change is clearly here. Besides that, it was amazing. So probably the next one we're going to be about that. I still have a lot of backlog of stuff that we pre-pandemic I wanted to do, maybe at some point Hong Kong and my flight with Cathay Pacific, maybe the next one as well. I don't know. I'll sprinkle, because I don't have a lot of flights this summer, and like Alex, he goes to the US and maybe he's gonna do a few domestic that he'll be telling us all about. I probably won't fly a lot because I kind of don't want to deal with the chaos. And to be honest, as you guys, for the long listeners, because we have a lot of new ones, I usually never travel during the summer because I want to enjoy London when it's actually sunny, which is rare enough. Saying that, it's actually raining now, obviously. but it's nice. It's more than 20 degrees. It's actually nice. But and so my garden, my grass will stop being maybe yellow and will go back to a little bit of green with that rain. Anyway, Alex, thank you so much. I hope everybody feels fine. I hope you guys don't catch COVID and you keep flying. And see you in the next one.
Guys.
Oh,
music.
God damn it.
Maestro.
Music. There, end credit. Here you go. So which one now we can talk over it. We don't have anything. That's a problem. Alex and I, we have this time limit. After 2 hours, we don't have anything else to say to each other. It's a bit like Greg and him in the flight. They avoid each other for the entire flight, so they have stuff to say when they land. So Alex and I, that's why we don't record more.
We're not stuff to
because then after 2 hours, I'm like, who is that guy? I don't have anything to tell him anymore. I'm kidding. It was fun to see you again, Alex.
Too. Glad you're feeling better.
We have another. Of course, that shows how unprepared I was. I don't have the signal telling me how much time it remains in the end credits. Well, just wait. Guys, see you in the next episode, whenever that is. And thank you for all your comments. Keep sending us reviews and comments. Love you guys. Happy travels. There you go.